I'm back. I'm not sure if you can tell from this freeze frame, but this right here is the face of a happy man. But to really understand the significance of this moment, we've got to go back to 2023 and the first time I tried to visit Baffin Island. Now, I've got a video from this trip linked below, but I'm going to go ahead and assume you haven't seen it and catch you up quickly. Baffin Island was a location I dreamed of visiting for nearly a decade, and in August of 2023, I finally got my chance. I didn't know it when I set off, but this trip was not going to go to plan. I was going to have some shockingly bad luck, and there were signs early on as well. The weather looked somewhere between awful and dangerous. The local community of Auyuittuq had a blackout the night before I entered the park, resulting in me having to pack in the dark. The park was basically underwater with an incredible amount of rain. The rivers were absolutely swollen from rain, making them extra dangerous. And I nearly took an involuntary swim in one of those Arctic rivers with all of my stuff on my back and alone. After seeing these brutal conditions were going to continue, I decided to call it quits on this trip on the morning of day 2, and I left the park on day 3. Parks Canada actually ended up closing the park on that day as well, and even started helicoptering people out too. Unfortunately, that wasn't the end of the bad luck. The weather was so bad, I ended up getting stranded in Auyuittuq for a whole week, not being able to enter the park and not being able to go home. And at the end of the day, I came home with only 5 images. I distinctly remember the sun coming out while I was waiting for my flight home and promising myself that I'd be back. And guess what? I'm back. And now you're all caught up? Now, I believe that most good trips start with a good plan, and frankly, my 2023 plan wasn't far off. This year would follow a fairly similar plan and started out much like my last trip, with an early morning arrival at the Ottawa airport, followed by me nervously checking the weather. However, this time, it was good news instead of bad. As we took off into a beautiful sunrise, I started to believe that maybe this year would be different. Maybe my bad luck was over, and I'd finally get that full experience I'd dreamed of on Baffin Island. Maybe this was my year. And then as we approached Iqaluit, the weather took a turn for the worse and my worry crept right back in. What if my connecting flight is cancelled? What if I don't get to Auyuittuq in time to start the trip? I let out a sigh of relief when I boarded the connecting flight, even though there was almost no one on it, and once we climbed above the clouds, I was back on cloud 9. I knew in my heart that everything was going to work out. And then we descended below the clouds and I got a sharp reminder of how fickle northern weather can be. I could barely see the land, and I guess the same was true for the pilot. We ended up aborting the landing and heading back to Iqaluit. I was terrified that I was about to repeat my experience from 2023, but that's where things took a new and more favorable turn in 2024. I spent much of that night on hold with the airline, looking for a way to complete my journey, but in the end, turning up at the airport without a confirmed ticket ended up being the right solution. I managed to get a standby seat and I was back en route, ready for a whole new adventure. Without question, this was a sharp reminder that even though the plan was similar to last year, this was going to be a very, very different experience. This is the story of my 2024 visit to Auyuittuq National Park on Baffin Island. It was nice to get back to Auyuittuq and enjoy a bit of warm weather before entering the park. And yes, this time the KFC did have chicken. I stayed at the bed and breakfast, joined by this lovely host with probably one of the best views you could ask for. Trust me, I spent a lot of this day sitting by this window and dreaming of what was to come over the next couple weeks. After a group dinner of Arctic char with some new friends, I was finally ready to really start this adventure. However, I'd be lying if I were to tell you that I slept at all through this night. And this is one of the spots where this trip diverged from my last visit. I was joined by 4 other people this time. These 4 gentlemen and I spent the next 11 days hiking, camping, and laughing together. You're going to see a lot of them through this video. Lucas, Brett, Neil, and our fearless leader, Artur, are all excellent photographers and great people as well. If you're interested in seeing some of their work, check out the links in the description below. After meeting everyone only hours earlier, it was finally time to make our way to the park and kick off what would be one of the most exciting trips I'd ever been on. Just like last year, it started with a stunning boat ride through this northern fjord. I'd be lying if I were to tell you that I had no anxiety watching the boat drift away after dropping us miles from civilization. But after spending so many hours driving, flying, and even boating, it was time to start the walking. We took our time and tried to keep our first day fairly light, eventually making camp on top of an incredible ridge with views in all directions. It wasn't long before it came clear that the sun was going to set behind the mountains shortly, leaving our camp in shade, but also creating some very interesting photo opportunities. So I think I found a few interesting little spots here. The river down here is just reflecting some incredible light off of the mountain and creating these excellent reflections, creating all kinds of patterns in the river. I've been trying to shoot it from a few different spots, but this looks like a good one. Here, I'll give you a peek at what I'm doing. So the river down there has all these braids and it's just reflecting this beautiful light. And you can pull out some of these just gorgeous patterns. And I've been tinkering away with patterns like this from all over this area where you see the beautiful light and then just the shadow. And it almost becomes hard to identify what you're looking at if you don't have a frame of reference. Really, really cool though. Probably a little out of character for the kind of things that I usually shoot, but hey, it's pretty and I'm here and I'm going to take advantage of it. So hopefully it's any good. And if it is, I'll probably show it to you. Well, even if it's not, I'll probably still show it to you, but enjoy. So I've captured a few of these intimate scenes from the river lighting up, but now that the river isn't lighting up quite as much, I'm starting to look for some of these bigger scenes, and there are a few of interest that are bouncing around here. So yeah, it's quite pretty, and trying a few different things. So hopefully I'll be able to figure something out. There's not a cloud in the sky, so it is you're really struggling with that, but with any luck that changes in a little while and we get something. But so far, yeah, I feel like I've got a few images that'll be interesting. Hopefully I'm right though. As I searched for wide scenes through the evening, I did take a number of images. However, what I didn't realize at the time was that this effort wasn't going to generate photos for me, but it was going to prepare me for what came after sunset. Good morning from day 2. Let's see what we're working with out here. After a peanut butter breakfast and a relaxed start to the day, it was time to pack up camp and head to a new location. This spot had been good to us, but we had a ways to go before this day was done.
Today is a sleeve of Ritz crackers and peanut butter on each. Yeah. Nice.
Before long, we were climbing the moraine towards Crater Lake, a place I distinctly remember from 2023.
Wow.
Seems familiar? Seems familiar. I was completely shocked to see that the massive waterfall I photographed in 2023 was only a trickle this year. In fact, the waterfall was so hard to see, I had to zoom way in to get it to show up on camera. In this clip from 2023, you can see exactly what I mean. No zoom required. This was a spot I was looking forward to seeing. From up above, the river creates all kinds of patterns as sediment and rock flour move through the river, creating opportunities for more intimate scenes. After hiking down off of the Crater Lake Moraine and approaching the river that gave me so much trouble in 2023, I started getting flashbacks to my experience in this river. This whole area was just river braid after river braid after river braid. But how different could it be this year? Well, this spot right here looked more like this in 2024. Just the tiniest bit more shallow than last time. Didn't even take off my boots. I can't even believe it. While this park is a climbing destination, this hike does not really have a lot of elevation gain. The challenge of hiking here doesn't come from elevation, but rather from hard terrain and from frequently going up and down various moraines. The benefit to that, however, is constantly coming across new and exciting vantage points. Not long after crossing the Crater Lake outflow, the incredible Mount Thor became visible, and we arrived at the most northern place I'd ever been. Where last year's trip ended here, we had a ways to go before we were done for the day. I didn't cross the Schwarzenbach River last time, and this time I likely could have gotten across by hopping from rock to rock, but I decided to take my boots off for old time's sake. I carried these Crocs all this way, after all. Not long later, we found ourselves climbing the moraine at Windy Lake and getting closer to our destination for the night. The recommended path through this park has changed over the years. At one time, hikers were recommended to hike on the other side of the river and were to cross using a bridge near Windy Lake, until it was washed out and never rebuilt. Smile.
That's as big as it goes.
I don't think there's any question that this was an immense viewpoint. I think all of us probably photographed this a dozen times at least. And while I was more than happy to spend some time trying to capture it here, this didn't end up being the best version that I captured from this scene. I think I'll save sharing my photo of the scene until we get to that one. So we've gotten to Windy Lake and decided to set up camp up here because the views are just astounding up here. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Like really, really cool stuff. Extremely photogenic. And it might be a little windy tonight, but it should be worth it. I'll give you a tour of camp. You can see the luxury that we're camping within.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, smell it.
Did you hit the jackpot?
This massive peak just loomed over camp. You couldn't help but be awestruck looking up at it. I ended up shooting this scene a few times over the course of the evening and coming away with an image of it I really liked. Add in that I'd never actually seen a photo of this peak before, and at the end of the day, I came home with a special image. As day turned to night, I thought I'd try another opportunity to capture this view, but again, this was not the one. Well, good morning from day 3. I wasn't sure that this was going to work this morning, but when I got up out of my tent, I saw some high cloud and thought, oh, that just might catch. I thought I would wake myself up and go to take a look. And it looks like it did. So hopefully one of these images turns out, because I've been frantically shooting to try and capture as much of this light as possible, using some of the same compositions I used earlier in the day, but really, really pretty. Hopefully it works out. Really love for that one to work. Fingers crossed. Hey, not a bad way to start day 3. I will take it. I can't stress enough how much that first trip affected my mindset heading into this trip. At every corner, I was expecting things to go sideways and anticipating that there would be some barrier that kept me from going forward. All because I was so rattled by my past experiences here. These first few days were an important reminder for me, not just in photography, but in life as well. Past experience isn't always the best predictor of the future, and getting discouraged by a difficult experience can stop you from experiencing so much more. My first 2 days here couldn't have been further from my last trip, and they were indicative of the experiences to come. Next time, I'll continue my journey north and finally get to some viewpoints that I dreamed of before visiting. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.